Hi, everybody. Welcome back to the Pivot Pen, which is the writing series I created to focus on the writing process itself. I am the creator. I am Rachel Robinson. I am an author. I have 22 titles spanning 3 different series, and I also have short stories and multiple anthologies and magazines. Yeah. So I kind of know about writing a little bit. So the Pivot Pen is not about story structure, writer's block, imposter syndrome, or honing your craft. It's for writers seeking change when navigating the creative shift. So basically, I'm just telling you when you need to pivot and provide a structured approach, that works for you. So of course, there's no judgment here. Your methods are not wrong. I have to say this every time. Your methods are not wrong. It just needs a little help, needs a little tweaking. And of course, there is always more than one way to do things. Rules are meant to be not necessarily broken, but finagled and reshaped, which you should be doing all the time anyway. Of course, Playpen is a play on words because this is a safe space to brainstorm different ways to pivot. Now, I'm going to be going over, of course, aspects of writing that I believe are critical to the writing process. In the previous videos, we talked about the diagnosis. We talked about stagnation, motivation, genre fatigue. That's always a big one. If you haven't watched those yet, I highly recommend seeing them first. This time we're going to go into elevated writing, and that's when your skill growth, your writing skill growth, exceeds the project you're working on. And trust me, this happens a lot. But of course, the housekeeping, we always have to do that. Just know that this is not part of an accredited class. It's for information purposes only. I am not here to teach you how to write better. I'm not here to make claims to improve your writing. And of course, all materials are the property of Match Artworks, LLC, which is my company, obviously. So no parts may be copied, screenshot, or distributed without the express permission from me. Now, with all that out of the way, let's jump into this one. This one's always going to be a little short because we're only focused on the one thing, which is the elevated writing. So, this is also another major flag when you find your writing has improved exponentially. Whether it's character development, prose, structure, dialogue, etc. Things aren't hitting like they used to. That first story, it kind of looks like amateur hour. Basically compared to like how you write now. And yet you stay in that lane because, well, it worked. It worked then. This is an example of that is when you try to, how should I say, copy the vibe of a previous work. But, your mind, your brain, has a better way of conveying it. I've gone back many a times into stuff. It's like, oh, I can rewrite that sentence. And I had to actually have readers actually stopped me and told me, please stop editing that book. We liked it the way it was the first time. So there's also that, but you look at it, you're like, oh, I could do that better. And when you kind of feel that, kind of like, oh, it's not coming together like you want to. Of course, there's questions for that too. So here's some questions, to evaluate your skill growth. And the first one is, in which areas, that I mentioned above, do you feel have improved recently? And is your current project, challenging these skills? Because, elevate. Does the project allow you to utilize those techniques? Is there a constraint in your writing, in your project? And also, is your vision for the project aligned with your capabilities and interests? Because a lot of times you're writing something, you're like, oh, that doesn't really jive. I don't really want to write that anymore. And then you have to ask yourself, does the original vision that you have now seem, like too simple? Maybe your writing is elevated to the point where it's like, oh, I can expand on this. I can do so much more. In which, that project is going to change like a lot when you do that. And if you were to start this project today with your new skill set, would you do it differently? So, that's something to think about. Like I said, short, sweet. That's all I got for that one. Because, elevated writing, we all have it. We all deal with it. And again, knowing when to, pivot and change some things up. So I hope this gives you, some more insight into how to, diagnose this whole thing and see how your writing goes, how it falls with your projects that you're working on. Next video, we'll talk about your style. And if it still serves you. Like I said, another big major flag, when you might need to pivot. So until then, of course, happy writing. And I will see you on the next one. And if you have not seen those, I do recommend going back and watching those first. So see you next time. Bye.